My interest in democracy and its relationship in crisis really was sparked after the 2020 election.
I really wanted to know the inner workings of our democracy.
Because I came from an environment where learning wasn't really acceptable, so this was definitely something where I was like, let's engage in critical thinking.
I really want to broaden my horizons and learn more about American democracy.
An integral component of the Vanderbilt Project on Unity and American Democracy is the course American Democracy, Conflict and Consensus, an undergraduate course offered by the College of Arts and Science at Vanderbilt University.
And there is, in my opinion, a moral dimension to democracy. If you do not see people as fully included as you are in the promise and the reality of the Declaration of Independence, then you are tending toward an autocracy of race or gender or economic power. Pick your differentiator. But if we are not equal before the law, then it is not a democracy.
It's an undergraduate course. It's a course basically about the American democracy being under stress. And so our objective with the students is obviously to continue to inject this kind of evidence-based approach to the conversations. We also really have a vested interest in trying to get them to think conceptually. What exactly is a democracy? What exactly is an autocracy? What is authoritarianism? These are not easily defined concepts, and we want them to think about those concepts and grapple with them. I have a very clear memory when one of the first earlier days in class, we had a paper that was due, 750 words on what is a democracy. They were all very confident they knew what that was. And we spent the class, John and I, picking apart every definition they came up with, because academics have only been wrestling with it for about 2,000 years. And students started to realize, wait a second, this is not easy.
Most political decisions, as many of you are studying, are not stark. They're shades of gray, there's nuance.
So it's on us to make sure our stuff is getting out and that we're studying things that are going to be mattering to people and are going to make a difference.
We also are really committed to bringing in diverse perspectives. We brought in David French, for example, who's a conservative columnist. We brought in Major Garrett, who was a CBS News correspondent. We had recently Tim Ryan, former member of Congress, come in, Nancy Pelosi. We're bringing a lot of speakers with different perspectives because we want the students exposed to those perspectives because it's so absolutely critical.
The biggest contributor to our learning is the amount of guest speakers that we have coming to the class. All coming to the course to not only present their experience, but their research, their work, things that they have gathered throughout their lives. And it's a huge way in which each Vanderbilt student who takes this course learns.
Our history textbooks is not what we are learning from. We are learning from the lived experience of the speakers that come in. The one that really resonated with me the most was Representative Tim Ryan from Ohio. Representative Ryan recently lost an election, and I felt that he was able to speak more freely about disagreeing with politicians, about decisions even within his own party.
One of Jimmy Carter's aides used to say that the Democrats show up to a gunfight with a 10-point policy plan.
We have to look at the real roots of the issues as people and not as politicians on the left or the right.
Everybody had very similar messages when they talked about the state of the country and what they believed needed to be done to fix it, which I think is really interesting given how little they probably overlapped on other policy beliefs.
We all want the same outcome. We all want a united nation. We all want this country to be collectively a country that everyone's accepted, that everyone gets to participate, everyone's voice is heard. However, those means are different.
These students are perfectly capable of figuring it out. And if we can give them the ingredients, the evidence, the theories, they can bake their own kind of cake. And the fact that there may be all different kinds of cakes out there, that diversity of thought is what in fact empowers the nation.
Over spring break, I started reading your book, and there was this one quote.
You must have had a lot of fun. Yeah, right. Yeah.
It said, "It is a fact of American history that we are not always good, but that goodness is possible, not universal, not ubiquitous, not inevitable, but possible." Could you maybe give an example of when this goodness was possible in the face of challenging circumstances and when it maybe proved its possibility?
March 1965.
I'm biased because I love Vanderbilt and I love the students, but they really ask good questions. David French, being a conservative columnist, had strong positions about, for example, gay marriage, and he'd written about those prior to the decision by the Supreme Court that made it gay marriage law of the land. And a student, a very respectful student, asked a question that could have been asked in a nasty fashion, and it wasn't. It was asked in a respectful fashion, and David French answered that with grace and subtlety. And that student, who clearly was very much in favor of gay marriage, came away satisfied. And here's people with different views, and they're having that conversation, and they both come away probably not agreeing, but they come away with respect for each other. And that's a tribute not just to David French, it's a tribute to our students who see the value of that. And that's one thing that we're really stressing with the students, and it comes naturally to them. John says, Meacham says that our students are sharp but don't have sharp elbows.
My personal view about how you deal with it now, which is not dispositive as a solution, is you try not to tell people they're wrong. You try to argue what is right.
But how do you think that relates to us thinking about conversations today?
Yeah, I think it's vital.
Conversation is the seed that blossoms into something beautiful. Yes, there are differences. You know what, I might be Latino, I might be a homosexual, but that doesn't make me any different. There's always some sort of common ground, and you can find that through conversation.
And I think that's also a really interesting way to broaden out your own perspective, either strengthen your own position or change what it is you believe.
It's cliche, we hear it a lot, oh, here are all the perspectives. But actively engaging and understanding different perspectives is much harder than actually listening to it and actually applying it to your everyday life.
And we are in need of politicians who are going to come in and unify the country. And by doing that, you have to acknowledge the fact that there are fundamental disagreements, but that neither of you are wrong, you just disagree, and you work together to find a solution.
When I'm depressed, I think about the students. They're engaged, they're bright, they're fair-minded. There's an honesty and a sense of conviction without being self-righteous. And that's not a bad way for the country to be either.